You're standing in the middle of a roaring stadium, or perhaps on the edge of a sunlit backyard patio. The air is thick with the smoke of charred wood and the heavy, comforting scent of roasted meat. You hold a paper plate. You reach for a bright plastic bottle, press down, and watch a ribbon of neon yellow or speckled brown spill out. It is utterly ordinary. It is cheap, ubiquitous, and completely taken for granted. You do not pause to wonder where it came from. Why would you? It is just a condiment, a humble afterthought sitting quietly in the door of every refrigerator, on the table of every roadside diner waiting to be used. But pause for just a moment. Look closer at that sharp, tangy paste. Strip away the modern vinegar, the plastic bottles, and the bright turmeric dye. Look at what lies at the very heart of this everyday flavour. A seed. A tiny, rough sphere, no larger than a single grain of coarse sand. You're looking at a survivor. You're holding the crushed remains of an empire builder, a medicinal marvel, and a silent companion to the greatest civilizations in human history. This is not just a condiment. This is a botanical titan that conquered the globe long before the first sails were raised for the great spice races. This is the spice of the people. Close your eyes. The roar of the modern stadium fades. The smell of charcoal drifts away, replaced by the heavy, humid scent of river mud and blooming flora. It is the year 3000 BCE. You're standing on the vast, sun-baked floodplains of the Indus Valley. The earth beneath your feet is deeply fertile, watered by the great rivers of the ancient world. Around you, the Harappan people are building one of history's first great civilizations. They do not yet know of the vast oceans or the distant continents, but they know the earth. They know what it yields. In the fields, you see a hardy weed-like plant standing tall, crowned with a canopy of brilliant, delicate yellow flowers. The farmers are not harvesting gold or lapis lazuli. They are harvesting the tiny pods of this plant. Inside are seeds. When they crush these tiny spheres between heavy river stones, a sharp, pungent aroma fills the air. It is a defense mechanism of the plant, a sleeping fire that only wakes when the seed is broken and touched by moisture. The Harappans taste it. The bite is immediate, fierce, cleansing. It cuts through the palate like a blade. This tiny seed has just taken its first step into human history, but a flavour this powerful cannot be contained by the banks of one river. It catches the wind of trade. It is carried in the woven pouches of nomadic travellers, moving steadily westward across deserts and mountains, passing from hand to hand until it reaches the golden sands of the ancient world's greatest superpower. It is now 1323 BCE. You're standing in the suffocating heat of the Egyptian desert, walking down into the dark limestone-cut corridors of the Valley of the Kings. The air is stale, thick with the scent of cedarwood, myrrh, and ancient dust. The high priests are sealing the tomb of the boy pharaoh, King Tutankhamun. They are preparing him for the afterlife, packing his eternal chambers with unimaginable wealth. Chariots of gold, alabaster jars. He has jewels that catch the flickering torchlight. But look away from the gold. Look into the shadowed corners of the burial chamber. Tucked carefully among the priceless artifacts are small, unassuming pouches. Inside them are mustard seeds. The Egyptians do not see this as just a flavour. To them, it is a medicine of the gods, a powerful talisman to ward off evil, and a crucial provision for the soul's journey through the treacherous underworld. Even a god-king cannot face eternity without it. Time flows forward, carrying the seed across the Mediterranean Sea. The sea breeze cools your face as you step onto the marble steps of ancient Greece. It is the 6th century BCE. The great mathematician Pythagoras is known for unravelling the geometry of the universe, but today he is acting as a healer. He crushes the tiny yellow and brown seeds into a paste, prescribing it to draw out the venom of scorpion stings. Not far away, Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, is grinding the seed into thick poultices to place on the chests of the sick, believing its burning heat can draw sickness from the lungs. For centuries this seed is revered as a healer, but it is the Romans who will change its destiny forever. You are now a plebeian, walking through the chaotic, noisy streets of Rome at the height of the empire. The air is a cacophony of shouting merchants, clattering wooden carts, and the smell of roasting garlic and olive oil. The wealthy patricians in their villas are feasting on black pepper, an exotic luxury imported across deadly tempestuous oceans from India. It costs a fortune. You cannot afford pepper. But you do not need to. You have the seed. Watch the Roman cooks. They have discovered a culinary secret that will alter the course of food history. They take the crushed seeds and mix them not with water, but with mustum, the sweet, unfermented juice of freshly pressed wine grapes. The acidity of the grape juice stabilizes the fiery chemical reaction of the seed. It creates a thick, pungent, searing paste. They call this invention mustum ardens, burning must. The word rolls off the tongue, mustard. When the Roman legions march north, expanding their empire across the freezing Alps and into the dense, dark forests of Europe, they do not march without their burning must. They carry the seeds in their leather pouches. They plant them in the fertile soils of Gaul, ensuring that wherever the eagle of Rome lands, the yellow flowers will bloom. The Roman Empire eventually fractures and falls into ruin. The legions disappear, but the seeds remain, sinking their roots deep into the soil of France. The centuries turn. The Dark Ages give way to the medieval era. You're standing in the damp, stone-walled cellars of a monastery in the 13th century. It is bitterly cold. You're in Dijon, the capital of the powerful Duchy of Burgundy. The monks here are quiet, patient men. They are tending to vast wooden vats. They have taken the old Roman recipe and refined it. Instead of sweet grape juice, they use verjuice, the highly acidic, tart liquid pressed from unripe grapes. The result is a revelation. It is smooth, blindingly sharp, and perfectly balanced. Dijon transforms into the undisputed mustard capital of the world. In a time when winter diets consist of heavily salted, preserved, and sometimes spoiling meats, this sharp paste is a culinary saviour. It masks imperfections and brings dead flavours back to life. It becomes so vital to the European table that in the 14th century Pope John XXII, a man who loves the condiment so much he refuses to dine without it, creates an official Vatican title for his nephew, Grand Moutardier du Pape, the Grand Mustard Maker to the Pope. While European kings and queens will eventually spill rivers of blood, sink armadas, and colonize entire continents for the monopoly on nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves, mustard takes a vastly different path. It does not demand violence. It does not require deadly voyages around the Cape of Good Hope. It grows stubbornly in poor soil. It survives the harshest winters. It travels quietly along the Silk Road, riding with caravan merchants through the steppes of Central Asia, slipping into China and Japan where its biting, wasabi-like heat perfectly complements their ancient culinary traditions. It is the great equalizer. It sits on the banquet table of the King of France, and it sits in the wooden bowl of the poorest peasant. When the age of exploration dawns, the seed crosses the Atlantic. It is the late 1600s. You are walking under the blazing sun of the American West. Beside you is Father Eusebio Kino, a Jesuit missionary traversing the rugged, uncharted coast of California. As he walks the long, dusty trail that will become known as the Camino Real, he reaches into his robes and tosses handfuls of mustard seeds onto the earth. He is not just planting food, he is drawing a map. Or when spring arrives, those seeds erupt into a brilliant, towering sea of yellow flowers, creating a golden ribbon that stretches for hundreds of miles down the Pacific coast. A blazing trail of gold to guide travellers safely home. Think about that immense journey, from the riverbanks of the ancient Indus Valley to the shadowed tombs of Egyptian kings, from the grinding stones of Roman cooks to the quiet cellars of French monks, and across the oceans to paint the hills of the New World in gold. It did not bankrupt nations. It did not incite bloody wars or build exploitative monopolies. Instead, it quietly conquered the globe through sheer, stubborn resilience. So the next time you sit in that noisy stadium or stand by that backyard grill, the next time you reach for that cheap, ordinary plastic bottle, remember what you are holding. You are not just squeezing out a condiment. You are tasting the legacy of pharaohs, the ingenuity of empires, and the long, untold journey of a tiny seed that changed the world, one fiery bite at a time.